The Village. It features one of the two main characters, Melora Ross. All you need to know, it takes place in the fall of 2006, 3 days after a bomb has exploded in Washington Square, and the power's been knocked out. And Melora is going into her office on a Saturday afternoon for no good reason. When Melora arrived at the airless office, the computer screens were already covered in dust. The closest thing to company were her colleagues' sweaters slumped on the back of all the chairs. She couldn't remember why this had seemed like a good idea. The bell rang, and she leaped out of her chair to answer, but it was just a boy of about 11 or 12 wearing a soccer jersey and carrying an open box full of M&M packages. She looked down at him. I don't suppose you're in the market for a townhouse on Washington Square. They're going really cheap. Excuse me, miss, he said. I'm selling candy to buy some new uniforms for my soccer team. We're actually pretty good. She motioned him in with a jerk of the head. They're $1.25 a pack, he said. There's a markup, but that's how we make a profit. It's not unreasonable. I need protein. You have any peanut under there or just regular? He nodded vigorously. I even got Crunch. Here, they got buried. They're really good if you like crunchy things. He was a sturdy-looking boy with a dark but sallow, round face, the kind of kid you'd never call attractive until he started talking. She asked him his name, which was Walter. Actually, said Walter, I'm kind of lost. So am I, Walter. So am I. Excuse me, but I meant the regular kind of lost? Like, where's the subway to get me back to 145th Street? He still had a sweet, high kid's voice with a slight Spanish inflection. On the phone, you might take him for a girl. You came here from Washington Heights? What the hell are you doing down here all by yourself? Well, I was at that big pier with my team getting our pictures taken. You know how they do those pictures? He feigned a dorky smile and held an imaginary soccer ball in front of him. Melora laughed. Somewhere in a box or a drawer in her townhouse, she had a slew of pictures of her son Cole, now 22, in the same pose with the same dorky smile. This was the first thing that had struck Melora as funny in days, maybe weeks. She laughed so hard she could see she was embarrassing Walter. Give me one of each. As they completed their transaction, she noticed that he kept stopping to scratch at his straight black hair. Are you scratching your head because you're sweaty, Walter? Yeah, he said. Me and a couple of my friends, we kicked the ball for a while after the picture. Do you have nits, Walter? He shrugged and then looked away. Walter, sit down. I may as well do something useful to someone in this life. She was surprised when he sat obediently. I used to pay people to do this work. No, don't sit down. Shit, I forgot about the power only for the 12,000th time. Okay, here's the plan. You and I are going to the backyard where there's some sun. She rummaged around in various drawers for the key. For a realtor, she was remarkably inept with other people's keys. Not only did I pay people to do this for my kid, but I once got a company to come into his elementary school and check all 300 kids. I made my rich husband pay for it. We were very noble. We didn't think the staff or the teachers should waste their time picking nits. Then I made fun of the Orthodox Jewish ladies who came to do it with their dowdy clothes. You know the funny thing, Walter? They didn't even have any hair. Now it was Walter's turn to laugh. Melora usually avoided the backyard, one of those unrenovated rectangles that old-timers considered charming. Violets ran amok out of every soft surface, and every hard one was slippery with lichen. She pulled up a pair of those molded white plastic chairs that sprouted in such places like another native species, and shook out the brown tree leavings. She sat Walter down and squinted at the sun to try to figure out the best position. She dug through her purse for her reading glasses with the teal-blue frames that usually made her feel weighty and doctoral. Then she pulled out a comb and stood over Walter, thinking there was no doubt a formula for dividing up a head, but it no doubt involved pi and squares of things. Then she remembered you were supposed to put the nits on a piece of Scotch tape, and she ran in to fetch a dispenser. Okay, Walter, she said when she returned. Let's suffocate the little boogers. Melora parted his hair. It was like a crop planted and tended by a tidy farmer. Her own hair was a graying, dirty blonde, bleached a hipster white that she liked to tell herself was the color of white chocolate or incandescent light through a linen lampshade or a tow-headed kid's summer hair. At first, Walter was a good patient or client or whatever you called a person with nits. Open your hand, she said, and she tore open the pack of crunchy M&Ms and poured him a pile. My mom, she's really busy, he said out of the blue. She has 2 jobs and all of us, and she says, as far as she knows, no one ever died from nits. Melora felt stung. So you knew already, Walter. You didn't tell me the truth. He insisted that that was a long time ago when he was a kid, and she felt a little better. I know you're supposed to slide him down the piece of hair. What do you call a piece of hair anyway, she asked. Piece isn't right. A leaf of hair? A stalk of hair? Maybe just a hair? Offered Walter. She cuffed him on the shoulder. How can you speak such cruddy English and be so smart? He smiled. After a while, he began to fidget. You have to pee, Walter? He peered at his big Casio watch. I should go. I gotta go. A ripple of loneliness developed in the distance and began building power. Soon it would come crashing through the silent office and drown her. Not so fast, mister. Turn a little, okay? I think we got us something. Shit, it's a tiny little egg sac with a tiny little bug inside, said Melora, holding the tape up to the sun. She found 3 more near the first one. Isn't that cute? A whole nuclear family, she said. Then she asked where his family was from. Colombia, but they left when I was little. It wasn't a nice place. I got into this special program. It's a pretty good school. Whatever you do, don't be a lazy student. My son Cole was a lazy student. He knew he could get by on charm. He was spoiled. My husband was spoiled. We were all spoiled. She suddenly wished it was the 90s. How easy and pleasant it had been to be a brat then. You could have a hissy fit any time if you just announced it first like a fire drill. Being Cole's mom had given her whole vocabulary for it. I have impulse control issues, she'd say. I'm not good with separation or transitions or fine motor skills. How she had loved those comforting books by those 2 doctors, your 6-year-old, your 9-year-old. And what she wanted to know now was this. Where was the guidebook for your 47-year-old when you needed it? Isn't that the worst word? Spoiled, she said. Like someone closed us up in the vegetable bin and we got all mushy with blue fuzz growing on us. Walter liked that one. He laughed heartily. He had the kind of face where every part crinkled up in the laugh. Even his ears seemed to be laughing. What's Walter in Spanish? Ain't no Walter in Spanish. That was supposed to be the point. My brothers, too, Eric, Kenny, and Jason. Do you get good grades, Walter? I'm not so hot in math. Numbers, they're all too much like each other. Kind of like my brothers. Some are bigger and some are smaller, but they all get on my nerves. They chuckled together. Then they were quiet. The wave held back, and for a minute the only sound in the village was the crunching of M&Ms in Walter's mouth.